Welcome to the Sideline Report, everyone. I'm Marvin Jackson, along with Donna Hopkins, Lou Holder. Renee Washington joins us also. And we have a special guest, Al Hutchinson. He's from Visit Baltimore. He is the CEO, and he's been having a lot of fun with the Ravens this season. And he's going to join us and talk about the Ravens to start off our show. And Al, talk about the season that the Ravens had.
Well, first, Marvin, let me thank you for having us on this evening. We appreciate that. And look, the history of Baltimore, we're a sports town. I mean, when you think about the Colts and you think about now the O's and now what the Ravens have done, we have a history of being very successful in the sports space. But this particular year, the Baltimore Ravens, they've had a very successful year. They came out as the number one seed in AFC. First time we've hosted an AFC Championship game since 1971. That's big. And I would just tell you the buildup was very successful. You know, the last 2 weekends with hosting the Houston Texans for the first playoff game and then the Kansas City Chiefs this past weekend, it's been a big lift to Baltimore. First, it was a big lift financially. Our small businesses felt the impact of it. Our hotels, a lot of them were pretty much sold out. So from that end, the city and the state made a lot of money, and that's always a good thing. But also just from a football perspective, it was huge. You know, we had a lot of national and international eyes on Baltimore. I believe the Houston Texan game was the most watched and most viewed game at that time. And then the Chiefs-Bills game took us over. But then this past weekend, 55 million people, and at peak, it was 64 million folks viewed that game, the biggest ever in an AFC Championship game. You know, that's huge when you talk about football, but also just for the Baltimore City brand. We had people looking at Baltimore. You know, we ran a commercial in the DC market as well as the Virginia market. People saw our video about Baltimore. We got a lot of phone calls and text messages about, you know, the impact of that commercial. So I'm in the business of storytelling about Baltimore. And anytime we can get good stories about Baltimore is very helpful, and we appreciate it. You know, obviously we didn't win the game this Sunday, and we're sad about that. But I think when you look at the numbers of people who viewed it, the success of the Ravens this year, it's really a win-win for both Baltimore and for the state of Maryland. So it's no question, you know, we're disappointed, right? If you're a fan of the Ravens and if you're a sports person, you always want to win the game. But I think at the end of the day, there were some successful outcomes to us being the number one seed in the AFC this year.
And I love how you started off saying Baltimore is a sports town, because the Orioles even have been great recently. And look, they're looking to have another great season too. So let's get back to football, though. Renee, you're in Philly, but you know all about those Ravens too, and the impact they made in the NFL this season, especially the quarterback situation with, you know, the MVP maybe right there in Baltimore.
Yeah. Listen, this felt like the year for the Ravens, and it's unfortunate how they lost in the AFC Championship. Lamar Jackson against Patrick Mahomes, a huge opportunity to be a team that can do something that others haven't been able to do. I mean, in 6 straight AFC championships, the Chiefs have now won 4 of them. So the Ravens were able to do something that's very difficult to do in knocking off Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs in the AFC Championship. And getting Mark Andrews back, you know, the season that Zay Flowers has been having a veteran like OBJ, and then, of course, most importantly, Lamar Jackson, it felt like this was the year for the Ravens. And I honestly was saying, of the 4 teams left, I felt like the Ravens had the most complete team. The run game was solid. Lamar had been doing a good job in and out of the pocket. The offense had been doing a good job of just getting open and creating opportunities upfield. And then it felt as though everything that we saw this season that led to the Ravens' success completely changed. The turnovers, you have 2 opportunities where you're in the end zone and unable to score an interception, a fumble. It's uncharacteristic. It's major, and you cannot afford to make these mistakes at any level. especially once you get into the AFC Championship, especially against Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs. So I do agree in the sense that, yes, this has been a great year for the Ravens. It's just unfortunately going to leave a very sour taste because of how it ended and the fact that they were only able to score one touchdown. They were only able to, even with the Chiefs unable to score in the second half, the Ravens still unable to close that gap. So a good season, but it would have been much better had the AFC Championship at least been a bit more of Ravens football in how they lost versus losing in a way that Lamar's not running. The offense is unable to convert on third downs, especially. And overall, it was kind of a flat game for them, which unfortunately goes against Lamar Jackson and the Ravens' overall pedigree, that now this is going to cause people to look at them differently. So it's a shame because I think many people were rooting for the Ravens to win this and knock off the Chiefs.
Lou Holder.
I give it to Al, when he talked about the excitement, and you did too, Marvin, about just how Baltimore with baseball and football is just a buzz right now. And I know a lot of people would love to trade their seasons for what the Ravens had. And I think it's because of their front office and because of their head coach, because of the basically stable franchise that they have. I think the Ravens will have more shots. As Renee said, it is a little disappointing that there wasn't more fireworks offensively, but that defense I thought played still very, very well. I think the coordinators there are still going to be looked at for head coaching jobs. And yeah, it's hard to knock out a champion. And you're finding out now why Kansas City is so good. Andy Reid is one of the best coaches in our time. And I just think that he came in there, he saw a game plan and he wanted to use it. And Travis Kelce did what he needed to do, not dropping balls. And they just brought it to another level. And that's the Ravens. That's what the Ravens have to look at as far as for next year.
Donna?
Yeah,
Could there have been a little different coaching also on the offensive side for the Ravens? I thought they should have ran the ball more.
Yeah, Marvin, you're exactly right. The Baltimore Ravens got away with what put them there, and that's running the ball. And they passed the ball pretty much the entire game. So they, as Renee said, they got away from their bread and butter that got them there. But let's not get it twisted. Everybody forgot about the Kansas City Chiefs because they were talking about the Baltimore Ravens. And you know what? Like I said, they shouldn't hang their heads. But Kansas City came in with a chip on their shoulders. Patrick Mahomes, he's the quarterback that sits over there, never thinks that he's ever out of the game. And when you look at Kansas City throughout the course of the year, they couldn't even catch balls. They were dropping balls all through the season. Well, they got that together the last 2 weeks of the season. Kelce, perfect on the day. And also, we forget about the Kansas City defense. I mean, I'm looking at the defense to say, whoa, we know about the offense, but that offensive line, that defense of Kansas City really showed up. And when you get to a championship game like that, you cannot afford to make mistakes. If you make mistakes, you're going to probably lose the game. Kansas City came in there, the experience that they had, a chip on their shoulder, and they basically said, you know what, we're going to walk away with going to the Super Bowl again. And Patrick Mahomes did what he had to do. I thought they got a little conservative in the second half, but you know what? They could have put more points on the board. They really had to, because you never count Patrick Mahomes out of a game or that Kansas City Chiefs. And as Lou said, Andy Reid, you know what? He called an excellent game. If everybody's saying, hey, who calls the plays? Well, it's Andy Reid and it's Patrick Mahomes and that Kansas City experience that's taken them back to the Super Bowl. But again, the Ravens, they have something to build on because, as Lou said, they're going to have a lot of other championships, other opportunities, because they pretty much have a complete team. They just have to stick with what got them there.
Let's talk about the excitement of that game. There was just so much excitement. Everybody wanted to see that game, especially with Mahomes and Jackson going against each other. But because Baltimore, it's just bringing so much excitement. And Al, why don't you talk a little more about Baltimore and what's coming up next month, February, the CIAA Tournament.
Yes, sir. So we were fortunate enough to land the CIAA Tournament back in 2019, and their first year of live basketball was in 2022. So this will be our third year of hosting the oldest African-American sporting conference in the country, the CIAA. It's continuing to grow every year. And the 2023's tournament, we are very excited because this community, from an economic impact standpoint, the tournament brought in $29.6 million to the economy in Baltimore, produced about over 1,500 full and part-time jobs associated with it. And the city and the state received $2.5 million in tax revenue. So financially, it was a win for the community. Our hotel community really was successful. It was really the last week in February in 2023. It was the best hotel standpoint and receipts than ever in the last 7 years. So it's a big win. Our small businesses reap the benefits of it. About $1.2 million went to small Black-owned businesses here in Baltimore City. We have a Black-owned restaurant tour that was created. This year, it's going to be 12 restaurants that we're showcasing. So the basketball is great. Men and women basketball. We'll have 26 games this year. There's a new school in the CIAA, Bluefield State University in West Virginia. So we're excited about it. This is great for Baltimore. It helps our brand. It helps the state's brand. People come in from all over the country. So we're excited about this. We have this tournament here until at least 2026. We're hoping to have it even longer, depending on if we do our part and the presidents of those schools are excited. So this is a good time for Baltimore. It's a great sports event in our community, and it definitely illustrates and demonstrates Black excellence for sure.
Hey, Marvin, he just called out my hometown, West Virginia. West Virginia. I'm from Oak Hill. And I also, being a hooper that I am, as far as went to college for that, wanted to ask you, when you all first got the tournament there, what have you learned from the first year up until now in how to do things even better to make it even more successful than it's already had? What was the learning things from the first year to now?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think number one, we have to always recognize that the reason the tournament's here is because of the now 13 college presidents. And they need to be feeling that Baltimore values the conference, that we want them in the community. And at the end of the day, we're going to provide resources to these 13 universities. So last year, we gave a scholarship for $1.2 million back to the conference. In the 2024's tournament, that number goes up to $1.5 million. And I think that's really what this is all about at the end of the day. Basketball and what it's all about. But we need to make sure we get our community excited about giving back to schools and also being able to showcase a conference that a lot of our young folks may not be familiar with, but now they can see a pathway to going to college at one of these institutions. Last year, almost 7,500 students from the state of Maryland attended those 13 universities. That's a good news story. And we want to grow that from 7,500 to 10,000 to 15,000 Maryland students will go to those schools. And as you know, a lot of the students that go to CIAA schools and HBCU schools, quite frankly, are first-generation college students. So we want to make sure we give that message too. Basketball is important, but it's also about the educational opportunities as well.
All right, you and Mayor Scott have done a great job bringing that to Baltimore, by the way.
I want to jump in there and just talk about Bowie State being the host and how that's been as far as Dr. Bro and Clyde Dowdy and what they've done. I mean, obviously it's great to have a tournament, but the host school stepping up and doing so much as far as ambassador and being a goodwill when this tournament came up here from where it was down south. Could you talk about how Bowie State has stepped up?
Hey, Lou, excellent question, my friend. And this tournament would not be in Baltimore without the leadership of Dr. Bro, Clyde Doherty from the Athletic Directors Department. They had to support this. And as you know, Bowie is the host institution. Dr. Bro is the chair of the President's Association. She has a strong voice in where this tournament goes. And so back in 2018, when we made the pitch to go after the tournament, and Dr. Bro was right there. She was our number one fan. If not for Dr. Bro and her leadership, this tournament would not be in Baltimore. So I'm forever grateful for Dr. Bro and for Bowie State. And I think this tournament, hosting it in Baltimore City, does a lot for the Bowie's brand as well. As you know, Bowie State was founded in Baltimore City. So it is connected to us. And Dr. Bro always reminds us that Bowie State was founded in Baltimore. So no, this is a true partnership. It's a partnership with Bowie. It's a partnership with the CIAA. The Commissioner McWilliams Parker is a true partner. And look, we got to look at this. This is a win-win for state, city, and everybody involved in the institutions. And we need to make sure we value this and do our part to keep this tournament here in Baltimore as long as we can.
Yeah, good side note about the Baltimore founding. A lot of people don't know that. Back in the 1860s, so that goes way back. We're hoping Bowie State men's team does well. They haven't been doing well since it's been in Baltimore, but we're hoping that they surprise some people in the tournament. The women's team is doing pretty good, so I'm really feeling good about them. So thanks so much for joining us today, giving a lot of people a little bit more to know about Baltimore and what's going on up there. Really appreciate that.
Marvin, thank you and the team for having us. And look, my message to you and your viewers is that all of us joining this celebrate Maryland, celebrate Baltimore, and celebrate the greatness of the CIAA Basketball Tournament. This is a great conference produced, we know all the athletes from Bobby Dandridge, Earl of Pearl Monroe, Charles Oakley. There are a lot of great athletes that have come out of this conference, and a lot of them, the NBA would not be the NBA without the CIAA's contribution. So let's continue to grow the tournament. Let's continue to encourage more young folks to look at this conference as a college experience. And that's what we're about here. And so I'm grateful and thankful to you guys because we need you all to help us get that message out.
The energy that building has and that area has, and then what Al's talking about, going last year, it was electric down there. Just great basketball and how they honored all the legends and things of that nature. Al, it's done very, very well. The partnership with, because we know hospitality and sports go hand in hand, and what you're doing is incredible. So hats off to you.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you.
See you soon, Al, and at the tournament. And I have a crab cake with you, man. We gotta have some crab cakes up there. Donna, Lou, Renee.
Oh yeah, I'm coming to the tournament this year.
I love that.
We have the best crab cakes in the world. So we know it too.
All right. Well, the Sideline Report team will be there, Al.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us. We're going to take a break, and we'll be right back to talk more about the NFL Super Bowl coming up.
Get some new people in. Make this place hyped again, Back in the 80s, that's what we want. We want to be contenders.
Coaching-wise, I would go for somebody younger. You see the Mike McDaniels of the league, you see the Sean McVay of the league having success. You see the Zach Taylor. I'd go younger, man. The old is not doing it.
And I think Eric, the offensive coordinator, should definitely get the opportunity.
Ben Johnson, Lions offensive coordinator. I want him. Yeah.
I would agree with that statement. Yeah.
I would allow Eric Bieniemy to be the head coach.
Belichick, maybe. There's some other young coaches out there up and coming that they could possibly go after. The fans all have choices, but the GM's got to be the final say-all. Everyone asked Bobby Beathard what he thought. Bobby Beathard picked the coach.
Get a new coach, hopefully someone that'll make a good change, to bring the team together and make them play harder and stronger and be successful next season.
If they want to keep Sam Howell, then go offensive line. But if not, then I would draft Caleb Williams or Drake May.
But I feel like this draft, we really need to make smart moves and take O-linemen and not take a stupid first round pick like what we did last year.
Our offensive line certainly is not a help. Our receiving core hasn't done much. It's just been not great.
My prediction is we going to the Super Bowl 2025. Mark my word. Make sure you record that 2025.
All right, welcome back, everyone. Watch out, Baltimore. We're going to the Super Bowl, so the Commanders fans say. Welcome back, everyone. Marvin Jackson here with Renee Washington, Lou Holder, and Donna Hopkins. And we're just going to talk a few minutes about the Washington Commanders situation, and we'll start off with Lou. We don't have Ben Johnson now. That's who's it seemed like a lot of people want it, but as you can see, it opens it up also for Eric Bieniemy. So let's talk about that, Lou.
Yeah, a lot to unpack there, Marvin. I mean, obviously, I'm more excited that we have Peters as the GM than whoever the coach is, because I trust whatever they're going to do. Whatever happened with Ben Johnson, it's more of an indictment on him, leaving them, this is his second coaching cycle that he backed out. So maybe they kind of, it's a blessing in disguise, right? So I always said, and I told you guys that I wanted a younger coordinator. I didn't want to retread. So I'm glad that we might not get one of those. Dan Quinn, I'm not really interested in that. I'm interested in a coordinator, even Eric Bieniemy, who I don't think got a real good shot because of the 1 year that he had. But at the end of the day, I've seen a lot of great players that didn't have a great coach, but I've never seen a great coach without great players. So that draft and all that cat room and Peters, that's what I'm more excited about. And I'm down for whoever they pick as the head coach, as long as because you know who's making the pick. You know who's making the pick. And that's what I'm excited about. They didn't get Ben Johnson, but then again, maybe it was a blessing in disguise, because that's 2 cycles now, Donna and Renee and Marvin. That's 2 cycles that maybe he just doesn't want to be a head coach for whatever reason. He has 2 cycles that he didn't jump on. And it wasn't just Washington. He told Seattle no, too. He just wanted to stay in Detroit.
Hey, Lou, I can appreciate that even more so, him basically saying, because he went backwards and forwards probably, you know what? He has unfinished business there in Detroit. And when you look at that team that they've got in Detroit right now, they've got all the pieces put together on that team. He looks at Washington, he looks at Seattle. These are 2 teams who don't have their rosters together. So it would be almost like a lot of pressure on him that he probably doesn't want. It's not like he's not going to have other opportunities to be a head coach, but I can appreciate the fact that he pulled the brakes back and said, you know what, even if it's the 2nd, 3rd, or 4th times, you know what, I'm staying where I want to build what I'm looking at, because a lot of coaches jump on that because they want to be the head coach, but they're not even ready to be the head coach. And I think and appreciate him. But Lou, you said it right off the bat. I'm more excited about Peters than anything else, because finally we've got somebody that's going to get it right overall. So I appreciate that, because moving forward, I'm looking at my next choice would be McDonald's up in Baltimore, a defensive coordinator. That was the second guy on my list, but I don't want Quinn either, as Lou said.
Yeah,
but that's not my money to spend.
That's the key part, not our money. But listen, unlike what the fans may think, the Commanders are not a year out from the Super Bowl. And honestly, that's why I think Ben Johnson made the decision not to move from the Detroit Lions. They're much closer to being a Super Bowl team than Seattle, than the Commanders. So ultimately, I think it was more about where he preferred to be now short term, that when he made that move to be a head coach, he wanted to be able to probably be a little bit higher up in terms of a team that he was moving to that was closer to being at least playoff ready, definitely championship ready. So when you look at the names, I mean, every report has indicated the Washington Commanders are looking to make a move pretty quickly and wrap things up. They had the meetings today, where they met with Dan Quinn from the Cowboys. They met with Aaron Glenn. Of course, Ben Johnson's name was floated around until it wasn't. But I do think that there are some names that make sense, because someone like Mike Macdonald coming from the Ravens could be a good fit, that he can bring some pedigree of being a part of a franchise that's been winning, that's been successful, that's gotten over the hump. And that's what the Commanders are looking to do. So I think it is at least encouraging that these, the decision makers, everybody involved in this process, in my opinion, is taking the right steps and meeting with everyone. And I think, honestly, this is the first time I feel optimistic about something the Washington Commanders are looking to do in terms of a move in a long time.
All right. Well, look, let's talk about this upcoming Super Bowl. We've got 2 different types of teams, really. I mean, San Francisco's been considered, the team this year. Kansas City, everybody kind of wrote them off a little bit, but they have that superstar quarterback who, when you look at his stats in playoffs and going to the Super Bowl, like 4 times now, right? This is going to be unbelievable seeing these 2 teams go at each other. great coaching on both sides. While we have Renee, what's your feeling about this Super Bowl? How exciting is it going to be? Or is it going to be a board game? Is it going to be over before it starts, pretty much?
I don't know that I can use the word exciting. I'm finding myself a lot less motivated and wondering, wow, we went through an entire season to get to this point of a Chiefs 49ers rematch in the Super Bowl. And unfortunately, it's not just because of the teams themselves. It's all the narratives that we've heard around these teams that, quite frankly, I'm tired of hearing. I was ready for someone new. I was ready for a new story, whether it was the Lions in their first ever Super Bowl or Lamar Jackson finally getting the Super Bowl, finally being able to get over that hump. But these two teams are juggernauts, unfortunately. And it's not too long ago that many of us were rooting for the Chiefs to knock off Tom Brady and the Patriots. And here we are now tired of the Chiefs. So I think it's going to be a big matchup. Both D-lines are looking great. We saw Kansas City's defense look fantastic against the Ravens, which I know, Donna, you hit on. We saw the 49ers who were able to just capitalize for both of these teams on turnovers. I think, to me, the biggest thing I've noticed is in their road to the Super Bowl, each of their games were more about their opponents making young mistakes, inexperienced mistakes that they were able to capitalize on. What happens when you're facing an opponent that's not making those same mistakes? Can you make the big play? Can you make the big helmet catch? Can you make something happen? But it's going to be great quarterback play, great coaching, great D-line, and it should be a chess match that comes down to the wire, to be honest.
All right, Donna.
And you can believe that Andy Reeves will not beat Detroit as far as going on 4th down and 2 and whatever. If that field goal is available, he's going to put that through the uprights. But I mean, you look at the two teams that end up getting in the Super Bowl, and I'm not disappointed about that. I was rooting for Detroit, and everybody thought Baltimore would be there. But the two teams that are supposed to be there are there because how you play at this time of the season is so key. So I think it's going to be a great matchup. I mean, I'm happy of the fact that Chase Young, who we covered, while he was here in Washington, gets the opportunity to be in the Super Bowl. That doesn't happen too often. But it's a chess match. Cal Shanahan, Andy Reeves. But you know what? Christian McCaffrey, the way he's running that ball. But one thing about the 49ers, if they get behind against the Kansas City Chiefs, it ain't going to be no catching up in that game. But as I said before, Kansas City has been there before. They know what it takes to get there. They know what it takes to win games. And I just think that, you know what? Until somebody can knock them off again, and as Gary always tells me, you can never bet against Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs, and that's what I'm going to stand on. I'm picking the Chiefs.
Yeah, I want to add to Donna, Trent Williams, which is one of my all-time favorite that we've covered. I'm glad to see him in the big game. All the greats deserve to get to the big game, and I think it's, as we all know, it's going to come down to the quarterback position. Patrick Mahomes has been there time and time again. Is Brock Purdy going to be able, in his first Super Bowl, be able, as Mr. Irrelevant, to be the most relevant person on the field? That's what it's going to come down to, because as Donna and Renee have said, the offenses and the defensive, they've both done their parts throughout the year. But the person who touches the ball, every offensive play, is going to make the difference in this game more than any other. And that's what's going to determine the game. And right now we know what Patrick Mahomes is going to bring. We don't know what Brock Purdy's going to do.
That's right. The first pick going against Mr. Irrelevant. That's pretty good. That's a pretty good story in itself.
I like that, Lou.
Yeah. And, well, thanks so much, everybody, for being with us. Renee, thanks for joining us again. And, of course, Lou and Donna. So for everyone else, enjoy the Super Bowl. And we'll see you next time on the Sideline. Take care, everybody.